Alrighty, dude. Let's do this. So let's go. So, Richard, I want to get your thoughts on something that is very prevalent in our hometown of Austin, Texas. Autonomous vehicles.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah. So I'll share my take and then you can share yours. So brief for people who don't live in Austin, Texas, we have autonomous vehicles with no drivers pretty much everywhere in like the small area around Austin, Texas. We have Waymo, which who owns Waymo?
I forget who owns
It's Waymo. They're pretty much their own company.
He's a good dude, but
Yeah, he's a good dude. We have Zooks, which are Amazon pretty much bought them, right?
yeah.
And then the potential of Robotaxi, which is Elon Musk,
Mhm.
right? What are your thoughts on them?
Oh, I think they're incredible. And now they're going to save so many lives in the future. But initially, they're just going to be like mind blowing.
Yeah.
And like, if you've never been in an autonomous vehicle, like it is so cool to just sit in one. And when it can talk to you, you form some sort of relationship with it.
They
Some
don't.
extent.
The Waymos don't talk with you, right?
The Waymos, I feel like they can. They do some voice to text, I thought.
Oh, okay, yeah, maybe. I think I've ridden in two, and it was in Scottsdale. I still haven't ridden in one here. It was really funny when I first rode in them because, like, if you would have asked me like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, will you get in like an autonomous vehicle? Will you get one without? I would have been like, no, there's no way.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, why would I ever trust that? And then I was in Scottsdale for a bachelor party, and we're taking Ubers, and we're going golfing, and it was always just kind of like a. When you're like drinking with your friends and you get into Uber, and sometimes it can like kill the vibe totally. You get like a really quiet dude who like is like playing weird music, and you're like, "Ugh." And then we were like, we're gonna take a Waymo, and I was like, sign me up, like I'm in, get me in the Waymo. They took one on the first trip, and I wasn't in it, and I was so jealous, and I was like, I want to be in this Waymo. And then I ordered one, and it was great, and it was such a cool experience, and it drove well, but. It's really fascinating in Austin how we just we didn't sign up for this, like we're just in this testing. And I personally have not heard of any wrecks.
Yeah.
I haven't really heard of anyone getting injured. And from what I understand, they're like 4 to 6 or 7 times safer than like general driving.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I initially moved to Austin because I thought it was going to be the mecca of robotaxi networks. And it is proving to be so.
Yeah.
And I definitely anticipated Tesla's autonomous taxi network to come out sooner.
Yeah.
And that's where Elon is a professional of making grand claims and then just delivering a little late.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing because he's pushing the needle a little further. But with robotaxis, I mean, what's so incredible about them is that, like you said, you can get into a car, it's just you, and you can have your own music, you can do whatever. You're not having this impeding person that's changing your vibe.
Yeah,
especially
exactly.
in a group environment. Oh my god, it's like renting out a whole movie theater to yourself almost.
Yeah, and you just it is. That's a good analogy behind it, because like when you get in an Uber, you're kind of like, I don't know, every situation's different, and that's where the robotaxis and the Waymo is kind of the benefit is like there is no variable now. You just own that environment. It is kind of like when you rent out a movie theater, you can kind of like turn to your boy and be like, yo, dude, this is crazy, and it will become normal, but there is like an inherent, like really nice benefit. And I'm excited. My roommate, Jake, wanted me to ask you, when do you think they're going to get, like, we set a barrier of like 5,000 units of robotaxi out. Do you have any idea?
Oh, of the dedicated no steering wheel. Because they're launching, Tesla is going to launch their new Model Ys, and you see them driving around.
Yeah. Dude,
with a single dude in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
And they're launching it as a supervised program of their future fully autonomous, no driver, but just to get people accustomed to it. And like, hey, this is just like they have an elevator operator, basically.
Do you think they'll launch the taxi service with a dude in it first?
Oh, that's what they're going to do.
Okay, cool.
And I think it's mainly because of regulations.
Yeah.
And I mean, Tesla can't even sell vehicles in Texas. They have to basically ship them in here. They can't even sell or manufacture vehicles here. They have to send all their titles out of state and back in the state.
Just normally.
Oh, and they've been definitely screwed over by regulators for so long. But what's so cool about like robo-taxis is that if in a perfect world, it's going to solve traffic.
Yeah.
And that if you've ever seen how a traffic snake develops or watch YouTube about it, it is all human-based drivers. That
Yeah,
shit up.
just a little bit of human error extrapolated out over 10 cars, and then traffic starts.
And then what it's going to transition into is there's not going to be as much car ownership. There's going to be a lot more of a fleet of so you would drive to work. Here's another example: is that you drive to work, but your car's just sitting in a parking lot all day long.
Yeah,
and
then you rent it out.
and it goes and picks up people. I mean, and that's a more of a futuristic approach to it. But I mean, think about how much of our world is dedicated to parking lots.
Yeah, it's like so it's kind of crazy. And I've seen a few accounts that like just highlight like the massive amounts of parking, like especially around like stadiums, you know, because you put a stadium in like the middle of this open area, and then like 90% of that area is just asphalt.
Dude, it's insane.
Yeah.
And then you go to like the Chili's, and then there's like a Chili's, a Hooters, a fucking Twin Peaks, and like some other thing, and they have literally 14 football fields of parking lots.
Yeah.
When they could have just had a singular parking garage.
Yeah.
But I think that robo-taxis is definitely going to save more people than like some forms of antibiotics. Like I think that one of the leading factors of death in America is accidents.
Yeah, and I heard Mark Andreessen talk about this, and he was like, just when you go to the DMV, look around the people, like that's who's driving on the road with you. Yeah. And I think we have this like, I don't know if it's like a user bias, but it's because like we are, not everybody, but I think the people who listen to this podcast are probably good drivers. You think that everyone else is just as good as a driver, but very quickly you realize that most people suck at it.
Oh, I mean, and as we're like, I think that we're risking being entertained to death in the future.
Yeah.
And, like so many people are so
oh my god, everybody's on their phones.
So like they are distracted, whether they're distracted by their own mind, the people in the car. I mean, it does. If you've had one to be able to take you places, it's so relaxing.
Yeah.
It's so chilling to just be able to like sit back and not have to worry about the drive a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to help a lot of stress levels. I mean, so many people are stuck in traffic for 2 hours a day of their life, which is just abysmal to be focusing that whole entire time.
Yeah.
When you could be working, when you could be doing other things. And it's just having that ability to just be like, okay, I don't want to drive right now.
Yeah.
And having that full trust in these algorithms or neural nets that can take over.
Yeah.
What's so interesting is that, well, there's two different approaches to it. There's the LiDAR approach, which is like pre-mapping roads, and it's more of like a train on train tracks. Or there's the neural net with cameras approach that Tesla's going at. And I think that is the long-term solution for low-cost autonomous driving, because they can drive any road in the world, whereas Waymos and Zoots, they don't really have that much of a capability to go off.
It has to be pre-mapped.
And I don't think that this is going to remain the truth.
Yeah.
I think that they're definitely going to evolve, and they're going to create incredible robotaxi networks.
Yeah.
But it's can they cost effectively compete? And that's where they're driving around $200,000 cars.
I see your point. Yeah.
Tesla's producing $30,000 robotaxis, and that's where they're going to have to try and assimilate manufacturing into their very expensive vehicles, and to make them wide scale, it's just gonna be difficult when you're competing with someone who's the best manufacturer in the world.
Yeah. I really enjoy I something that I think a lot of people might not realize is that I don't have these hard numbers, but Jake, my roommate, pays attention to so much. Like 99% of people who drive Teslas don't use the AI driving. It's like a very small percentage of people that use it.
Yeah.
But my experience with it has been amazing. Like it is so good. It rarely makes mistakes. And I think what's really cool is like the eye. So like it knows it's watching your eyes while you drive. And if you look, if I'm driving, right, and I turn to my passenger for like 3 or 4 seconds, it gives you a warning. Yeah. And then if you keep doing that, it'll shut off your AI for that like ride. Essentially, it times you out.
Because I've seen like the computer's vision of this.
Come a little closer.
You can, and it has it has a percentage gauge of like when you're looking at your phone, there's a percent calculation that's like 99% on phone. It tracks your eyes to what you're looking at.
Wow.
And so if you're looking at your phone, it knows you're looking at your phone. So it'll start dinging you quicker than previously. I mean, and there was 2 years ago, the AI was absolutely militant about it. Like it was, if you look at your phone, it'd be beep, beep, beep. Yeah. Let you drive.
Yeah.
Now it's gotten so chill. And then it literally like.
So it's gotten better because they're less militant about it, you're saying?
Oh yeah. I mean, it used to be annoying to drive because even just like
the slightest, I remember when that was happening.
Slightest little bit of your phone or your passenger on being even like showing you something, it get militant with you. And it does make sense as they want to keep their statistics very high. Like they don't want to have any wrecks, they don't have any problems.
Yeah.
And that's why they have like the feedback loop of sending back problems that you've encountered. Like if you disengage, it's like, hey, what happened? Send it in and we'll look at it. And I think that sort of loop of trial and error or vector of change is super important for them. I mean, but what's insane is the amount of fucking hours they have of driving.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Millions upon millions. And these cars are gathering data 24/7 and they're sending it back to the world's largest supercomputer at like a factor of 2. Yeah. And then they're...
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Like Musk owns probably more GPUs than any other company right now, all training either XAI or their Dojo, which is how they're training the neural nets that are driving the cars.
Okay.
And they're running simulations. So they have these neural nets in simulations, like in a GTA simulation that is perfect roads, perfect environments. They have sun, they have glares, they have pedestrians running in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And that's how they've like trained it to be this it's good, because they have thousands upon millions of hours of data.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild. I think what's really cool is I had someone on my hockey team I was talking about, and he was like, well, they can't drive in the rain. And I'm not that knowledgeable on this. So I was like, really? Like, and he's like, yeah, like LiDAR is much better. And then I went and asked Jake. He was like, no, that was like the case like 2 years ago. He's like, dude, like Jake was telling me this. I've driven so much in the pouring rain. And he's like, there were points where, you know, if it's downpouring, you really can't see that well. Yeah. Like as a human, he's like, the car sees perfectly fine. He's like, there were points where it was much safer for me to let the car drive while it was pouring rain.
I've definitely had that experience. I mean, and we've had lane control for probably 40 years now. I mean, semi-trucks have been staying in a lane for so long. So I think a large part about like driving in the rain is staying in your lane. But I mean, what's so incredible about these neural nets is that they're thinking on a millisecond basis, where we're thinking on a like maybe 5-10 bits a minute.
Yeah.
Like we
can then there are moments where your reaction time is lower too.
Yeah.
Yo, push this closer to you. Yeah. And that way you can sit back to you and you're more relaxed. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be interesting. Something Jake is also really interested in is the Optimus. That's the name of it. Yeah. So these robots they're producing, I'm sure people have seen videos of them. Jake was telling me like how he thinks it's going to run. And he was even talking about this really cool business model of like outsourcing humans doing tasks. So like a really simple one, the way I understand it, is like laundry. And so the way that they train a robot to get really good at laundry is you record people doing laundry and then it just kind of learns from that. So he was like, there's going to be this whole market for like people doing these tasks to help train the robot to do it.
Oh, that's super interesting.
Yeah. And he's like, dude, like they'll just pay people, you know, like imagine getting paid like $10 an hour to like do these like tasks that you already do. And you just have to like record it essentially.
Dude, you're paid to be watched by a baby.
Yeah.
Like literally he's trying to figure out the world. You're like, okay, good job, buddy. This is how you do it. But Optimus is like a $30 trillion business.
I know. I told my mom, I was like, Mom, you need to invest in Tesla right now.
Yeah. Because what's so interesting about Tesla's unique position in this is that the same AI computer that is navigating the world with their cars is the same one that they're going to use in Optimus. The same batteries that are in Teslas, the same 4680 battery is in Optimus. So their manufacturing line is completely streamlined to create these cars. And that's where they're going to have such a unique cost competition is from that. And so Elon plans to produce trillions of dollars of revenue from that.
Yeah.
And because he thinks that every single person is going to want to have one. And then manufacturers are going to have thousands, if not millions.
Dude, manufacturing is going to be crazy. And I think that's going to be something that will bring jobs. Well, it won't bring jobs back to America, but it can bring manufacturing back to America. Yeah. So like there's like in that type of nuanced conversation, there's like, well, we want Americans working. Cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But I think for the security of America, you want manufacturing to happen here. That way, when shit goes down or we develop enemies, which is not something you want to happen, but it's inevitable.
Yeah.
We have the capability to bring this stuff. It leads to innovation, keeps us as the powerhouse. Just good things for Americans overall.
Yeah. I mean, Naval said that the country who can't produce drones is a vassal state. Like we are moving into a world that is drone warfare. It is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just saw what Ukraine did to Russia.
Yeah.
Pushing in shipping containers of drones.
You know what was insane? So I didn't watch, there was that one really big overview video where you're seeing all the big airway and maybe that's the only video of it. I don't know. But something that I picked up on this was, if you noticed in that video, at least from my point of view, was that the planes, so they have, if you haven't seen it, it's this big overview of like an airport, and there's planes all mapped out on this runway, essentially, or staging area, whatever. They were all hit in the same area. Ooh. Like every plane had a fire on it, right, in the base of it where you'd want the fire to happen. Yeah. And it's just kind of interesting because that's not how a typical airstrike would work.
Yeah.
You'd fire these bombs and there's going to be some risk of error. But these drones go right for the same spot because it's the best spot to hit. And I was just like, whoa, that's just crazy. Like there was legitimately 10 planes and they all had fires right in the same exact spot. And I was just like, wow, the deadliness of it,
Oh, it's scary.
Is
like
wild.
When I see China doing the massive drone shows, like
and then they all fall out of the sky.
Force.
Yeah,
that is a show of force.
Yeah,
because imagine each one of those with a small explosive on it, and they push it into the air vents of a fucking anything, any building.
Yeah,
they come and they ram into your forehead and they explode.
Oh my gosh!
Like it is diabolical what drone warfare is going to do. I mean, even just think about fighter jets that have been transition to having autonomous.
Yeah,
they don't have to have any of the life support systems.
Yeah, and that's what makes essentially like the biggest from again, not that smart on this stuff, but from what I understand, one of the biggest like cost factors, but just like capability limits is that you have to have a human in there. You can't. The G-force has to be lower. You have to have a cockpit that can house a human body in it. It has to be big enough for that. You have to put everything that associated with that. Whereas like now you just like that thing can just hit turns and things like that. It doesn't matter anymore.
Dude, and that's like one of my biggest reasons for why we haven't been back to the moon. Like people have these theories about, we only went there once or whatever. But it's because space travel is not for humans. Like having a life support system there is ridiculously expensive. It is not effective.
And you kind of can't test as much.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of send something up in the air. It's kind of what Elon's doing. He's testing all these without humans in it. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, yes, it's expensive, but inherently the 10 billion, how much do they lose if a rocket explodes? Do you know?
It's a few million.
So it's a few million, but
10
like
to 100 million.
If there's a person in there, it's like everybody is like, what?
I mean, that's why SpaceX is a private company as well. I mean, because they can have that risk of being able to blow up these rockets, and shareholders aren't like, "Hey, that was our money that you just exploded and went to dust."
Oh, okay, I see your point. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that people are freaking out about superintelligence and AI right now, but robotics is just as big. It's just as big, if not bigger, in how it's going to influence our future.
Okay, but what's the difference between them?
Well, one is like when you think of a superintelligence that is exceeding human knowledge, like it is smarter than a human, and then there is how robotics is going to affect our lives on an abundance side. Like we're going to be able to mine asteroids in the meteor belt. Like we're going to be able to do things that give us a stage of abundance that we have no clue about.
Yeah.
I mean, just deep sea ocean mining. I mean, that's an insane thing as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we have so many resources on our planet. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
It's really just assimilating them into to things where we can spread them out. But that's where like I am not in the camp of a pessimist. I definitely think that the future is going to be extremely exciting. We're going into the largest stage of abundance ever.
Yeah,
like
it's also a great mindset to have.
Exploding in all the tech that is changing the world. Like it is true exponential growth from here on out. So if you're not investing in these things that are going to change the world in the next 15 years, you're missing out on like something 40 times what the gold rush was.
Yeah, it's all, dude. Like all the stuff with Starlink too, and they're launching the gigabyte. internet, I think, right?
Yeah, dude.
Like-
Starlink is how they're going to fund Mars missions. That is his
Right. That's the whole reason why the thing is around. I think you told me that. Like the whole reason why Starlink is a thing is to just fund the Mars missions, essentially.
It is the best provider of internet for the third of the world that doesn't have access to internet.
Yeah.
And if you think of like how do you take any place out of poverty, it's internet access is probably number one, because then you can
energy is probably up there too.
Yeah, but being able to sell your goods of service to the world is a huge
True
elevator,
and being able to sell to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where like having that access to education at a fingertip, to where you can learn whatever you want at any moment. I mean, we take that so much for granted.
Yeah. I think we have a very skewed. A lot of people in America have a lot of people who like to push their ideologies and beliefs and how they think the world should work do not understand how most of the world runs.
Yeah.
In poverty, in burning fucking cow shit and wood and coal all over the place just because they can't survive.
Yeah.
And living outdoors, they don't have access to internet, they don't have access to electricity, and we're like, oh yeah, they need to use, we need paper straws and we need to I'm like, dude, besides the point. But yeah, I think Starlink it's just cool, man. I see your point. It might be like one of the best things, because once you get access to internet, you can learn, you can communicate with people, you can share ideas. There's all these probably really smart people out in the world that there's so much potential there. They just can't really use that potential. Like, we have access to everything here.
Yeah.
You can just learn whatever you want.
Well, and you can your ability to iterate is so much better when you have access to information and access to talk to other people around the world, air out your hobbies. I mean, one of the biggest reasons why people move to America is because we have every hobby known to man here in America. And in their place, whatever they're interested in might not be that popular, but once they get access to the internet, they have a place in this world.
Oh, okay.
Where they've been
to differentiate and specialize in this very minute thing. Yeah.
And Starlink's also super interesting, as in any sort of wildfires or cataclysms, it's unaffected.
Yeah.
Because it's, as long as you have a Starlink dish, which is the size, the Starlink minis are the size of a laptop now or less.
Yeah.
And they're only going to get smaller until they're the size of your phone. But it's truly incredible. I mean, and it is all skewed towards the Mars economy, because that's how he's going to have internet on Mars as well.
Yeah. Do you think that there's an issue with putting out that many satellites?
No, because
they're planning to launch a lot.
Yeah, and the new ones are going to be bigger, almost the size of a plane. They're going to be massive. The current B2s are the size of a mattress.
Okay.
And they're it's like a giant Pez dispenser. Once they launch these rockets in space, they shift out these fucking mattress-sized.
Yeah, and they're in chains, essentially, right? Yeah.
But they're going to get bigger and bigger. And they're each decommissioned, I think, around every 2 years.
Yeah, that's what Jake was saying.
They fall into the atmosphere.
And they burn up, and they decommission them by exploding, essentially, into the atmosphere.
Dude, but there is a serious threat of space debris, and that could if we destroyed, China did this a few years ago, where they tested their anti-satellite missiles and they exploded one of their own satellites, but it created 4 million pieces of micro debris
that then will freaking kill everything around it. That's actually something that I think I actually worry about that a lot.
You should, because
you do that 100 times, that's 400 million little specks traveling at 1,500 miles per hour that hits one of the satellites, it explodes. It hits a rocket, it explodes. It's kind of wild.
Oh, it's scary.
But they also have good technology to be safe against that. They have these double-walled systems, essentially.
Yeah, to block the transfer of energy.
Yeah.
But what I am ultimately an optimist in this sort of situation is that our ability to handle that, if it ever came to that, will be superior than
we'll deploy a system to help combat it.
Yeah, we'll get some crazy laser system that's higher than it, that pushes it down with lasers. Just there's this crazy program, I think it's called DART, but it's where we wanted to take pictures of Alpha Centauri B, or this a neighboring planet that's in the habitable zone in our closest neighbor star.
Yeah.
And they're going to send a bunch of these small satellites out to it in a chain, and they're going to send a laser up to the front one, No, the front one's going to take photos, and they're all going to fly by it. They're not going to stop, because one of the biggest problems with going anywhere in space is that halfway there, you have to start slowing down to get there.
Yeah.
So if they're trying to get close to the speed of light by shooting lasers from Earth and accelerating these satellites, they're going to push the satellite
with a laser.
With lasers from Earth.
Well, how does laser enact force on it?
Oh, protons.
Okay.
Because when you're in the absence of gravity, or absence of friction, you can push things with lasers.
Yeah, because there's no friction. So like where the laser does nothing here because there's friction and atmosphere there, that small minute thing compounded over half a year gets there much quicker.
Yeah, they say that they can get it up to I think it's like 20% of light speed, or it's very fast, very fast.
Wow.
But they're gonna fly by it and then send the data or the information of the photo that they're capturing back through the chain to Earth. So they're gonna send out like 1,000 of these.
Oh, and it's gonna bing, 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 come back.
Yeah, I think DART is actually the one that we crashed into an asteroid. I think that's a different mission. But insane stuff coming ahead. I mean, what really excites me about the future is that there's probably 1,000, 2,000 different private organizations or companies that are working on things all day long, every fucking day.
Yeah.
And they can't tell anybody about it. But it's going to change the world in 10 to 15 years.
Yeah. Because they're trying to keep their secrets safe so that other companies don't get competition against them.
100%. I mean, they also probably have NDAs. They have like insane levels to try and keep these things tight.
Yeah.
Because but that's what makes me so excited about the future, is that I know that there are dudes out there grinding all day long, every day.
Yeah.
And they're working on things that are going to blow our minds in 10, 15 years. And that's where the general public just doesn't have access to that information. And we never will until they deem it fit for us too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that stuff gets me going, because like,
it is cool to think that there are just men out there just like working so hard and just grinding all day long. Surely women can do it, but I feel like men are a little bit more prone to being that type of disposition where they just obsess over something, just like, and just devote 80 to 100 hours a week to the
no hygiene.
Yeah, no hygiene. Just like living in a room with a mattress and just like on a computer grinding.
You
got to be absurd.
You got to be absurd.
That's what got us helicopters and airplanes and the internet. You know,
hyper fixations on something and like enthusiasm behind it. I mean,
yeah,
it's really exciting. I mean, I'm definitely extremely excited for the future. I mean, just the idea of colonizing Mars is super cool, but that's one small little thing.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be around to see it.
Oh, we're sending Elon's going to send at the end of this year. It'll probably arrive in 2027. They're sending the first Starship to Mars, and he plans to send 1,000 a year, or he's making 1,000 a year, but he wants to
Starships a year.
Starships.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that's crazy to think about.
And there's like 700. Boeing makes like 780 planes a year. So he's trying to get to where they're making just as many Starships as planes.
And Starships are freaking massive.
Yeah, 400 feet tall. I mean,
well, they're not sending the boosters up there though.
No.
Yeah, the boosters come back. That's the whole purpose of it, is to cut down the cost so that you can actually do this thing scalable.
Yeah, they want to be able to refuel within an hour or so.
That is so crazy.
I mean, they're catching it with Megazilla arms, putting it on the launch pad, refueling it instantly, adding in another Starship, and sending it off.
Yeah.
Because that's how you're going to colonize Mars. I mean, if you don't have that amount of ships or that amount of be able to reusable of the boosters, you're never going to get even close to the amount of tonnage that you need to get to Mars.
Do you think it's a waste of money to do that?
No.
It's a lot of money.
Well,
you can invest that in so much other stuff.
It's a very small percentage of our military budget, and it's a private organization that's doing it. He's
also a smaller percentage of our
time.
Yeah, true.
I mean, and people throw up so much hoopla about the subsidies that SpaceX gets, but they get nothing compared to oil and gas, to all these other polluting industries, like the GMO corn and wheat that is being subsidized in our country. Yeah, that's what people should be worried about, not the subsidies.
They hyper fixate on this one thing when they don't actually have a scope of like if you were to take like Elon subsidies in his different companies, and it's like 0.001% of subsidies. You're getting mad about this when there are like 20 other things that take up 100 more times subsidies that arguably could do just as worse things. And he's just a private company just doing
it. He's being contracted. It's not like like NASA does contracts for. They want this launch, like they want the Dragon capsule to be able to take astronauts to the space station.
So the Dragon is the top of the Starship?
No, the Dragon is the top of Falcon 9 right now. So it's their manned capsule.
Okay, so Starship isn't manned. Falcon is manned?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Well, Falcon sometimes is manned.
Okay.
It launches like every 3 days just doing Starlink satellites.
Oh my
Like
God.
I could look at my phone right now and there's probably a launch tomorrow.
Yeah.
I used to watch like all.
Where is this going? Is this in California?
No, this one's in. They launched Falcon 9 out of Florida, out of Cape Canaveral.
Okay.
They launch it every few days, launching more Starlink satellites.
Wow.
It's insane, dude. I kind of lost my train of thought there, but
Money, subsidies, Starlink, Falcon.
Yes. Because they're competing against Boeing and other launch providers, and NASA awarded SpaceX these subsidies, or basically paid them to do these contracts.
That's how the entire government works.
Yeah,
and you could criticize that and corruption and things like that.
Yeah,
but
and then as we evolve into the is this worth it? It's like what technologies will be learned in this push to the stars.
Yeah, and that's how we get most of our not most of it, but a lot of our really good technology has been developed by NASA trying to solve these problems in the space missions, and then we just take that. They take that modified a little bit and use it on Earth for different.
I mean, if you look at any of the warring efforts throughout the past, like those are the huge catalysts for change and technological advancements. It's like what comes along with this one goal, you're going to have 100 other things that you have to solve to get there.
Yeah,
and that's where people just you're not seeing that. You're not understanding that how much goes into this. Like there is. It's an immense amount of engineering and physics that you have to solve to be able to colonize Mars.
Yeah.
And it's going to encompass so much more life support systems, some botany, some like being able to produce food out there. I mean, that's
I think like one of the hardest things you can do, because you need an atmosphere, you need soil, you need
the mycorrhizal connections.
Yeah, we think we understand this stuff. We don't. It's so complex.
Yeah, we could discover through this, like how to
optimize it is. Yeah, like it's like, okay, we're trying to terraform it. We're trying to build like a football field of soil, and then we learn so much about the network because we run into problems there.
Yeah.
And then we learn, and we're like, oh, this is actually how this stuff works on Earth. Right? It's kind of like what we were just talking about. Is you have this goal, and then you learn so much about the thing you're studying through that goal.
Yeah, we could find out the origin of life from this.
Yeah.
I mean, because Mars has liquid ocean, or it had liquid oceans.
Yeah, it has these big caverns in it too.
It has the largest mountain in the solar system, Olympus Mons.
Yeah.
2 times taller than Everest. I'd love to climb that. I'd love to climb it, and we're gonna be able to.
Yeah.
And
there's gonna be an Optimus robot just like on top of a SpaceX flag, just like mounting. You know that's what Elon wants to do.
It's 100% gonna happen. It's 100% gonna happen.
That's like the beauty of like what I love about Elon is he kind of does these like petty things that to some people might again seem petty, but it's like this is like allowing someone to do that is what gets you there. You know, it's like, dude, I want to put an Optimus on Olympus Mons with a SpaceX flag.
Yeah,
and it's like that's like the end goal, but there's like all these things you get in the process. Oh my god, that's so crazy! Like when he launched like the Tesla, the car into space, it's like that's just like him putting his like little touch on like the thing.
He wants the future to be exciting.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people conflate him with other billionaires. But he's the person who got $170 million from selling eBay or formerly X.com. That was formed into...
Oh, that was eBay?
PayPal.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
eBay bought PayPal. But they sold it to eBay, and he got $170 million, put $100 million of that into Tesla, 60 million of it into SpaceX, 10 million of it into Solar City, and then borrowed money for rent. No other billionaire kept all his chips on the table like that.
Yeah.
To advance the future more. And that's where people think that Elon is in it for the money, and that is just, if he was in it for the money, he would have gone into a different industry. He would have gone into finance.
Yeah.
And he'd be
chilling on a boat somewhere like Bezos is, just hanging out. I'm gonna go take a piss, and then I have a good question when I come back.
Do it.
Alrighty, so what do you think about the Elon Trump rift? It's fresh off the press.
It is fresh off the presses. It's very interesting, bro. And I think it's mostly the fact that they had worked together on something that I think that Elon is very emotionally attached to, is the future of humanity, the future of the United States, and the debt,
which is, for most people, it is just so hard to conceive, and it's kind of hard to have an optimist view about it, because it is just so incredibly large and growing, that it's like,
I mean, it's $12 trillion in the past 5 years. It took us 212 years to accumulate that much debt previously. So for the first 12 trillion, it took 212 fucking years. And then now in 5 years, we've added 12 trillion more to that debt. So it's creating a debt.
So we're at like 24 trillion?
I think we're approaching 30 or something.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was already 30.
Yeah, it is an obscene amount of money, and it is where Elon and Trump are having this feud is based on the fact that Elon actually had plans and aspirations for us to actually have an impact on this year, an impact on the fiscal year of reducing our spending and actually cutting a lot of waste. But he saw the underbelly of the beast and realized that the government does not want to stop spending.
And there's so many players in it that maybe Elon thinks that Trump has power over, that maybe he doesn't, and Trump has to like appease everybody in this, right? And and then he says you're on the Epstein client list, which I knew. Yeah, like, I would have guessed that.
It's just to what extent is he on the file? We know he's on the file. Yeah. We know that he's flown with him multiple times. Yeah. And is it to the extent that he is what he is being called? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's actually sleeping with kids. I don't. It'd be hard to believe.
I know. I don't see that as that type of guy who doesn't do any drugs.
Elon also deleted that tweet, I think today or yesterday.
Wow. And so Rogan just had on Kash Patel which would happen a few days ago, but
bro. The same day.
I didn't watch it.
He had Kash Patel on, and then Theo Vaughn had JD Vance on the same day of the launch.
Yeah, JD Vance posted a picture and was like, "Surely there's nothing in the world that we could talk about today."
Yeah. It's weird, dude, and I think that
that's so cool that JD Vance is going back on Theo Vaughn.
Theo Vaughn, I mean, he's done very well for himself.
I know.
And
JD Vance has done too.
Yeah,
he's a great speaker, and I think he's very likable, dude. No, if politics, your life, unfortunately, you're a public servant and you put yourself in that situation, but he's just a human just like anybody else, trying to help people out, do the best for himself, his family, his community, and America and the world at large. But I think if nothing incredibly wrong goes wrong, I think JD Vance has a really strong push to be a bigger figure, like a president.
I mean, he's supported by a lot of the tech moguls. I mean, Peter Thiel and Larry Adelson are both huge proponents of him, and those are some of the smartest people in the world. I mean, Elon has said that, or his mentor was Larry Adelson, and I think that he said that in a question of who's the smartest person you've ever met, and it was Larry Ellison, the founder of Oracle. But I think that JD Vance has a really good grasp on reality, and he's just like a very respectable person to lead the country versus like a very pragmatic and kind of crazy dude that is Trump, which is it's interesting. But I think that where Elon is, he's come to the conclusion that if we're going to save the country, it's through GDP growth. It's not through cutting down on well, it is through trying to get rid of the subsidy. I mean,
but the only way you really do that is through GDP growth. You can't erase trillions of dollars of debt without having a surplus of money.
Yeah, we have to be like on a balance sheet making money as a country. Yeah, and that's where
is probably a good thing.
Yeah,
that's 100%. A crazy idea, but that's probably
It's a good thing. I mean, if you look at what Argentina has done, I mean, they're now in a surplus. They've cut down like 30% of their deficit, and that country is doing a lot better with just a better head of fiscal policy. And I think that is definitely something that can be that can happen in the future. And there is an argument for that this is like foundational spending, like that we got to get the borders done, we got to like deport people. Like they have different drives for why they're pushing this.
We're a big country. There's a lot of stuff to do, money,
and there is the argument that we've gone so exponentially in our economy that this spending is kind of proportional to that. And I think that there is some truth to that it's we shouldn't be pessimistic in the long run, because it's just like things that get talked about right now and that everybody's worried about is like an immune response of society. And whenever I hear like the whole public talking about something, or they're really scared about something, I'm like, okay, the immune response of society is taking over, and we're handling that. I don't need to devote as much attention or as much of my effort to that, because everybody else is hyper focused on it.
Okay.
And
like
climate change.
Okay.
Like that's a huge example. Is that I think that's largely overblown. But
it's also very nuanced.
It's very nuanced, but in totality, the message of we want to have our planet survive. We want to be able to breathe our air. We want our oceans not to be filled with microplastics. I mean, that's what stresses me out more than anything.
Dude, exactly. Oceans. Yeah, exactly, dude. So we can dive into this. Like, I am it's kind of funny. Like, I believe in climate change. I believe that humans are having an impact.
Yeah.
Now, people focus on this like CO2 levels in the world.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know how much of an impact we have on that, how bad it is. But like, if you want to talk about bad things in the environment, let's look at our oceans. This is like the lifeblood of the world. There's heavy metals all throughout it. There's plastics. Like, bro, the Philippines and China and that whole area in Southeast Asia pollute so much. I think the Philippines does like 2 or 3 times more than the secondary person, which does like twice as much as the third person.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. And that is like our food, our life, it's everywhere. And then like, what happens when you ruin the ocean?
What happens when the blood of a whale is like 4% microplastics? Like, what the heck's going to happen to that?
Yeah.
Like, it has to affect these phytoplankton blooms in the middle of the oceans. It has to.
And that has so much, they take up so much CO2. Mm-hmm. Or do they produce it?
They take it up.
They take it up. Yeah. It's a huge part of the ecosystem is taking in, all of that and,
mm-hmm.
Converting it and being part of this lovely cycle that has been in balance for so long. And now we're just like ruining that stuff with chemicals, pesticides, rodenticides, like the blooms that happen over in the Mississippi River Delta. And just because there's just this mass die-off area because we just polluted so much.
Yeah, I mean, glyphosate is a terrible thing that we've done to our water systems. I mean, at 70% of the air, and I think it's either 60 or 70% of the air and 60 or 70, I forget which ones, of the water has glyphosate in the southern states. So the air that you're breathing and the rain that's coming down on your plants has glyphosate, a known antibiotic, cancer-causing agent.
The Bayer headquarters is right next to where I grew up. It's legitimately like 5 minutes away from my mom's house.
And it's
these big bear
sketch, dude. It's so sketch because they're producing all the seeds for our food as well.
Yeah.
And that is where, I mean, they're now even forcing Mexico to start using their seeds. They're like forcing them to.
Yeah.
I forget the details on how, but
and it's a nuanced thing. Like, I really like this guy, Bjorn Lomborg. You know who that is?
No.
Oh man, you'd be fascinated by him. He did this massive conglomerate study. He was kind of commissioned to do it.
Mm-hmm.
He's been on Rogan a bunch. It's like, what efforts can we take in the world that it boils down to one equation, which is if you invest $1 in it, how much do you get back from that? And then the way they measure that is like, how much good can you do for the world for the least amount of money for the most amount of people in like the simplest and most cost effective way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like some of these are like providing like birthing, like pre and postnatal healthcare centers around the world, like very simple little areas for women to give birth because it helps the child, it helps the mom, and if you can produce like a healthier baby, it makes like the life of that person way, way better.
Mm-hmm.
It's like investing like this small amount of money in better multivitamins that that like the people who distribute medicine around the world to underdeserved or underprivileged people around the world, making those multivitamins just like a little bit better and putting better ingredients in that. So it's like these like simple things you don't think about. And one of those is getting better seeds and better plants, because if you can increase the yield of like a farmer by like 10 to 12 to 15%, that's a lot when you play it all out. And so they kind of get these people about Bayer, Monsanto, these GMO seeds, they kind of like, hey, we can increase your yield by like 10 to 15%. And you're right. They definitely do force people to do that. Yeah. And that's not good. And we shouldn't be forcing people who don't want to do it. And then they put them next to farms, and there's drift from the farms over into the other farmers who don't want to do it. And then the seeds spread, and then it gets infiltrates their own crops and things like that. Yeah.
It's scary stuff. It really is. Yeah, the Bayer Monsanto thing is really bad. Yeah, seeds. It worries me about our soil systems.
Same.
And how we've lost the nutrients. And even if they're creating more yields, what are the nutrients within that food?
Yeah.
Are they creating like sustenance food, or like food that just makes you full and gives you no nutrients?
Yeah, there's just sugar and calories in it. Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of our food system has moved to being nutriently void.
Yeah.
And
calorie dense.
Yeah. And it's leaving your cells
into weigh, to like have bigger weights, because that's inherently what makes the people the money. You know, you can produce a squash that weighs a little bit more, but it has half the nutrients. Well, no, Whole Foods isn't charging me per unit, vitamin B or whatever.
No, they're not.
Yeah, no, they're like, well, your squash went up 10%, so our profits are 10% more.
I mean, and it's causing cellular dysfunction and cellular starvation on a cellular level, where people are trying to retain these minerals and nutrients from their environment by eating the food, and they're not getting it from their food. So their body is signaling, we got to try and store the nutrients within this food more. So they're increasing insulin in the system to try and store more minerals or nutrients.
Yeah.
But they're not getting it. So their body's in this state of like accumulation of fat from the lack of nutrients that's in their diet. So I think that's what's causing our obesity epidemics, is the lack of bioavailable nutrients within our food. And this all goes back to our soil systems, because if it's not in the soil, it's not in the food.
Yeah.
And that's where if you want to talk about catastrophes in our overall, in our country, I mean, we're losing $11 trillion in soil each year because to degradation, to misuse, to not cover cropping, to
over-tilling and planting spinach on a field for 25 years, and that just robs the soil of all those nutrients. And
monoculture agriculture, you get rid of every other animal in that area.
Yeah.
There's no squirrels, there's no groundhogs, there's no bugs, there's no insects, there's no birds. It is just one plant.
Yeah.
And that is not how an environment works. That's not how mycorrhizal fungus works. That's not how any of these microscopic organisms that dig air holes into the soil and aerate it. And
you need all of that stuff
to be moving. You need roots to be moving through the soil, and that's how you absorb water into the soil. Like if you look at White Oak Pastures, an incredible farm in Georgia, and then there's a farm right next to it. And if you look at the water runoff from each farm, one is crystal clear, or not crystal clear, but it's a lake. Yeah. And then one is just topsoil. It's just dirt and topsoil from the rain, because the farm has none of these root systems in place to hold the topsoil there.
Yeah.
So it's all getting pushed into our waterways. And
which isn't good.
No.
And then you get all the bad stuff with that as well.
100%. I mean, and it's what is in that topsoil that you've been spraying on it that's now moving into the waterways. There's all sorts of health problems that come from that.
Yeah. Dude, something that I really appreciate about you, and what I love about coming over your house, is the absolute ecosystem you have created at this your abode, whatever, your house. Like, talk a little bit more about that. Like, let's say specifically, like, you have these. Explain the thing you have in your backyard, the ponds.
Yeah, I have these big IBC totes, or they're meant to hold water, but they're 270 gallons and they've been cut in half. And I have them flowing into each other. So I have 4 of them.
Yeah, it's like a step function. One's higher, and it filters down into the lower one, and then it recycles back to the top.
Yes. But it's growing aquatic plants, and I have all these other epiphytic plants attached to the wall behind it.
Yeah.
But it
has fish in it too.
It has a bunch of fish, a bunch of shrimp.
Yeah.
A bunch of snails.
And it's like huge. It's not a small endeavor. It's pretty big.
No, I love ponds.
And that's just one part of this little ecosystem too. It's just like in the way back, and like you wouldn't even know it's there if you didn't look at it.
Oh, dude, I love that thing. And what's so incredible is that you come back from a vacation, or you leave for 5 days and you come back and you see the growth.
Yeah.
And you see this just like the world transforming in front of you. And you get to see, like, if you go out there at night and shine a flashlight in there, you see all these little microscopic organisms bouncing around, doing their thing. But I just think that getting into harboring plants and small animals and fish keeping is such an interesting hobby, and it really takes you from looking at the world on such a macroscopic lens and getting into the details of like how do these ecosystems actually work, what cleans water. I mean, and I think that that's something that I've come to the conclusion is that especially in freshwater environments, it's the plant life. Like, the abundance of plant life is how you keep water clean.
Yeah.
So I have these tubs filled with hundreds of different species of plants.
Yeah, they're like legitimately so many. There's so many plants. It's so cool.
And I have the bottom one pumps to the bottom of the top one, and then it filters up through big rocks, medium-sized rocks, small rocks, and that just gives it gives a lot of surface area for these nitrifying bacteria to clean the water, and because that's how you take nutrients out of water, is that there are these microscopic organisms or bacteria that are cleaning and going about their world. I think it's just so fascinating. The bacteria, eukaryotic, little bitty life. I mean, and even prokaryotic life is just so interesting. And then if you like really get into it, there's these things called Asgard archaea, which is like our most descendant ancestors. That was like a mix of eukaryotes and prokaryotes. And it's just like once you get into looking into like microbiology, it's so cool. It's so fascinating. Like if I have a microscope in my house too, and if you look at just like a piece of string algae, like you see all these little critters running around, and it just makes the world so much more exciting when you like get that level change of seeing, like looking up and seeing the stars and thinking about the massive gravitational waves that are flowing through you at almost every moment from these massive supernovas and black holes colliding with one another. Like, dude, that's something that I've been super interested in recently is gravitational waves.
Oh.
And I think it's just so crazy that when a black holes collide, they basically form this massive gravitational event that sends shock waves throughout the universe. And these waves have been detected by things like LIGO, which they have two mirrors and they're shooting a laser in between. And the laser is so precise that it senses when this mirror is moved just a little bit this way from a gravitational wave that literally ripples all of the fabric of Earth. Yeah. And those things are coming through us and affecting us at not every moment, because there's not that many, but like they're affecting us in some way. And I think that's just so crazy. Yeah. So insane.
All right. Well, I want to ask you, we can riff on this because I know it's a topic that I don't get this. I speak a lot about it, but I don't get to speak with people that know a lot about it. And that is like Graham Hancock, Jimmy Corsetti, all of these things about ancient civilizations, Younger Dryas impact theory, Göbekli Tepe, the pyramids, Olmec culture, all the stuff. Did you listen to that recent guy on Rogan, Luke Caverns?
I listened to about an hour and a half of
it. Dude, that Olmec stuff is so fascinating. And like how the Americas was this hub, right? Like a lot of people don't realize that the Amazon was very much most likely this extremely populated area that I'm forgetting the explorers' names, but Spaniards came and they went into the cities and they talked about these massive cities that existed. And what our understanding of it maybe like 10, 15 years ago was, this was just a tale that the Spaniards, these explorers said they wanted more funding to go down. This is like, I don't know, 1500, something like that. They were exploring, like, and then they came back and there was nothing there. And that was most likely because of disease and, smallpox and all that stuff. When we came over, right, they didn't have these viruses and the immune systems well off to fight that. And yeah, it's just so cool. And all this lost stuff. And, my take on it is I don't think that I think actually these people probably had different mental capabilities. There were certain people in the population, just like in our world, there are mediums, there are people that can remote view, and we have so much distraction or information that we can pay attention to that I think if we just lived life like there's millions of people on the world, and these people just had nothing really to do. They had to pay attention to the stars, which they learned and they scoped out and they made lores and myths about. And then they had just time to spend with themselves and lonesome and in human, around fires and just something like that. And I think we developed the ability to do other things with our mind. And there are people in this world that can still do it. And then we just harnessed that a little bit more because there wasn't all this other shit. We didn't get to work on spaceships. We didn't get to work on, Bitcoin and all the healthcare systems and everything that we can focus on today. So yeah, it's such a fascinating topic to me because it's exploration, right? We have explored a lot of this world, and so now we're almost like looking to our past to explore. But also something that's really fascinating is like how much the people who gatekeep the information, what's that famous Egyptian that was just on Rogan that was like just a total.
It was bad.
What's his name?
It starts with an H. I haven't really studied much of his stuff, honestly.
Yeah, either have I. I mean, I've listened to many people talk about him, but I didn't even listen to that podcast, but Rogan literally was like, that was the worst podcast I've ever done. And I didn't watch it because I just don't want to watch it. But these people like gatekeep this information. They're so not inclined to do any research. And like very specifically, they find these caverns underneath with LiDAR underneath different features like the pyramids and that whole area around there. And they're just like, no, we definitely know what happened. Like we definitely know what's going on there. You can't do anything there. What's your take on all that?
I think it's obviously a very interesting topic, our past of human history, and I think a lot of it is due to, or a lot of what you're saying initially with the Aztec areas is that they were building out of wood. Like they're surrounded in rainforest, so they're building their structures out of wood, and they're making things that are very biodegradable in the long term. So that what might have been a bustling million population city has now in 20 years have been swallowed by the jungle. The biodiversity of the jungle has come in and take over, and that's where like archaeology is so interesting because you're literally trying to find scraps like that haven't been eaten by the animals. Like that's what's like when we think about our knowledge of dinosaurs. A lot of the dinosaurs that we found one example of that. One bone.
Exactly. And then they like extrapolate it out, and that's why a lot of people have these. I believe in dinosaurs, but like a lot of people who think like, oh, I don't believe in the dinosaurs were things because a lot of people do think we find these like massive skeletons of all this stuff. I'm like, no, man, they find like half of a jaw of like a few vertebra and they just make these conjectures. And I believe them, I think that they compile all this net of information to learn about the different types of animals and how that might work together. And I believe a lot of it, but it's not. They don't find these big skeletons like we think they do. It's like these little parts.
Like full skeletons are some of the most rarest objects on the planet. I mean, I was just in London at the Natural History Museum, and I got to see one of the most put together stegosauruses ever, and it was incredible because every bone that you were seeing was not a replica. It was the actual bone that had been digged out of the ground. I mean, but going back to your previous point about past civilizations, my brain says that we weren't that advanced in the past, but my heart is saying that like we definitely don't know as much, and that the endless possibilities of the hundreds of thousands of years that we've been Homo sapiens is incredible, and the amount of soil turnover even that time where like if you look at the cities that Rome and London are built on, like the archaeological sites are literally 40 feet under the ground.
Because they keep building on top of it.
They break down a church, and that creates a pile of rubble, and they build another church on top of it, another one, another. So all this stuff is underground, and it's been turned over. So it's like our ability to access this prior knowledge is so slim. But I will say that we do have a lot of archaeological research on the expansion of humans out of Africa and into Europe and into the Americas. So I definitely think that while it might be fun to think of these like grandiose civilizations that were bigger than us, the actual archaeological research from that time just shows stone tools. It just shows hunter and gatherer society.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily. I would agree with you on that. I don't think we're disagreeing on this point, but to like play with the conversation, I don't think that they were necessarily that advanced. Now, the whole thing with the Olmec heads can't float. The pyramids of Giza with all this stones, the trilith stones. You know about those?
The trilithons.
The trilithon stones, 900-ton stones moved over mountains like hundreds of miles. That stuff. So like that's where like I don't think we were flying spaceships. I don't think we were using laser guns back then. But like it's a hard problem.
It's
to
a
solve.
hard problem to solve. But
Yeah.
I've seen. I saw.
But also,
this
a lot
video.
of people don't think, and I'll let you go at this. A lot of people don't think that, like, I don't think that they were advanced, but there are people that are like, you know, they did them with rafts, and it's like, well, that kind of seems like they can't do that.
Yeah.
So, like, how was it done?
I think there was a dude who he created Stonehenge in his backyard by himself with the same size stones.
Yeah.
I think that humans are incredibly smart.
Yeah.
And that we are ingeniouses. Just like people think that the carvings of these Indian churches are too precise to ever be done by a man with
Where?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But it's the I don't know the exact temples, but they're hyper realistic. They're carved in the side of a mountain, and they're perfectly chiseled. They have a lot of these sound waves or geometrical sacred geometry built into them, and they extrapolate a lot of points off of that from and assume that they're not capable of doing that. But I mean, if we go back to Greek times, they moved a 100 plus a multi-100 ton obelisk from Egypt to I feel like it was either Turkey or somewhere in Greece, but it took them like almost 20 years to move.
Yeah, we just had so much time on our hands, and just people and slaves to just say, this is like, I want this done. Yeah, you know.
And we're gonna work for years on end to get it done.
Yeah, and then there was no media to say like people say about Elon, we can't do this. There's like, you're gonna die if you speak up, and they're gonna do that because I'm the emperor of Rome, and this is what I want.
It's like Elon has a saying. It's screw optimism, screw pessimism. Fuck that, we're gonna get it done.
Yeah,
that's not the quote, but I think a lot of people in the past had that similar like. Doesn't matter. We're getting it done.
Yeah, well, it's gonna happen.
Figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out.
Figure it out. We're building these pyramids.
Yeah, but do you know about the vases, the Egyptian vases
that are like so precise?
Yes, dude. Like
electron microscope.
Yeah. So I'll explain it for the people that don't know because it's truly so fascinating. So first off, I might be screwing up the timeline a little bit, but we're in 2000. Was AD? Yeah, AD. We're in 2000 AD, and around 4,000, 5,000 years ago, they find these vases. And they can't date them because they're made of stone, but they can make conjectures around radiocarbon dating of what they find it, where they find it. So they think these things are 4,000 to 5,000 years old. And then so they find these vases. First off, they're made of granite, complete one solid piece of granite. Mm-hmm. And they're not that big. I think they're like as big as these bottles, right? You know, like 12 inches, 16 inches. They're not that big, and they're smaller ones. But it's one piece of granite. And they're vases, so they have an inside to them, right? Like they hold water, so someone's carving on the inside. And what they say they used was like copper spoons and material to like scoop it out and to carve the outside. Okay, there are people that do that. That has been done before. But what is the craziest part about it is how precise these things are. Yeah. So like the opening of the vase is a circle. That circle is so precise of a circle that like we can't even make it with our precision engineering and rockets.
See, there's just no way. There's just no way we can't recreate something like this.
Well, they said that
let me just say something.
Yeah.
Is that imagine this? You have a very primitive pottery wheel, and you're spinning it.
Yeah.
And you apply a force to one place on the pot.
Yeah. Is
that not going to create a perfect circle all the way around?
Yes, but here's the part to it. There are handles on it. Mm-hmm. So if this is the thing, that's what they said. Okay, they spun it in a circular manner. There are handles on it like this.
Yeah.
So you couldn't do it. You can't spin and so the circumference of the base is also a perfect circle. So they have handles that are like chipped out of it. They're little O's like this.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Oh, I see. But for me, I just feel like we're trying to extrapolate. We're taking away the incredibleness of humans to try and put it on something else. Like
yes,
I see what you're saying. That it's very, very like, how in the world did they do this?
Well, I don't know.
It's incredible.
Okay, fair. I think. Let me explain my point a little more. I don't think that humans didn't do that. I think humans were amazing and did it. The reason why I made this little timeline is, so that was done 5,000 years ago, we'll say. They then find vases that were made 3,000 years ago. So they are older. They are in the same area, by the same culture, same dynastic Egyptians, same people inhabiting that space, we think, that are later. So you would think that, 100 years ago, we have airplanes. Now, because time has gone by and we have increased that technology, the airplanes are way, way, way better.
Yeah.
The vases that come down the line are like awful.
Yeah.
They're made of like pottery, and they are like, yeah, these are definitely the same people who made these. Like they're not made of hard materials. They're not circular. They're just like crappy old pottery that we see all around the world.
Yeah.
And the people who are these the traditional archaeologists are like, yes, we know the story. These people made these.
Yeah.
When they're it's not just the circle, it's the circle to the vertical to the other parts of it, and there's tons of them. They're just like, yeah, no, we know the story.
Yeah.
You stop looking into it. You're looking into tough. This is obviously the timeline, and this is obviously what happened, and you're a fucking racist pseudoscientist for even talking about it. That's the part that I guess I have issues with. It's
100%.
It's just like, come on. Like, how do you not think that it's their lack of appreciation of the beauty and the ingeniousness of this design that humans made that pisses me off and that I have problems with.
100%. I mean, we definitely have the tendency to think we know things before okay, so we have confirmation bias like that. There's so many biases that humans run by that I think that, especially in a situation like that, like they have been indoctrinated through their whole entire careers
and they wrote the textbooks
to leave these points.
Yeah.
So there's so many things in our human history that we have missed that we don't know about. And I think it's incredible to dig into it deeper. What's also incredible is that there's still people living the same way as we did 2 million years ago. There's still Aboriginal tribes in the Amazon and in French Polynesian Islands and in small little pockets all around the world that have been living the same way for millions of years.
Yeah.
And I think it's very much our ability to adapt, but our technological advances, I think, are based on our environments and our access to resources. Like as we as we created more populated communities, we had to develop abilities to feed everybody there. So that's where agriculture started. And if we wanted to stay in one place, we had to develop those ways of becoming better. Yeah. Whereas a region right next door might have been in abundance, and they didn't have to change as much. Yeah. So I think that there's that vector of change that changes society to where a society like this one that was hyper-focused on vases could have been shifted dramatically in a stage of abundance, and their need for that or their technological advances could have been put on the back burner as they're focusing on something else.
Yeah.
And there's so many like interplays between that.
That's what I think I agree with you. I guess so then, like, to play that, just this one minute cosm out is like, I think that Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson and these people are somewhat right. It could have been a solar flare. It could have been multi-asteroid impacts. That vase might be older, and there was a more developed civilization there than the traditional archaeologists would care to admit. And then that there was this mass cataclysm that we see, whether it's the flood stories all over the world, whether it's the Younger Dryas, during the Younger Dryas, that massive spike in water levels that went really high, and the change in temperatures, right, from a massive energy surge, whether it's from the solar flare or a massive number of impacts happening. I think there's this, like, I like Graham Hancock's way of saying is like, we have amnesia. There was this culture that existed, and we forget it. We don't have recollection of this, that this might have happened, and people are trying to look into the past to learn about this stuff, and people want to stop them, which I have issues with.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that, and I totally I completely see what you're saying now, is that, like, saying that during this timeline, this is what happened.
Yes,
is totally ridiculous.
Yeah, and I have the answers. I'm the expert. You need to stop talking about it, because and then they make ad hominem attacks. Like, you're a racist. You're like, blah blah blah. It's the racist one is hilarious. But
and they're looking at history, which is full of fallacies. Like, written history is ridiculously full of fallacies. I mean, there's this incredible man called Irvin Finkel who has he's an archaeologist, but he studies notes that people have been sending to each other instead of like historical texts. He studies these letters between individuals, and you get a date on the letter, you get of what they're talking about on that day. And I think it's so incredible to do more research into those type of things. But what's also so crazy is the water level changes of our society. I mean, I think that the big flood, there's so many mythical things surrounding that
all over the world.
And what I almost did like this I did a deep dive into this recently, and I think that how we got to the Australias was because the water level was substantially lower at that point.
Whole plateau region in the Southeast Asia was all a land, and that was probably the most habitable spot because it was colder. There was an ice age in that area, right? And when there's an ice age, the water levels go into the glaciers, so the things die down.
Yeah,
and there are certain places like in America, we have a huge continental. It off of the East Coast, it dips a lot. So even if the water level is 100 feet lower, you don't really get much land. But in that area that you're talking about, that 100 feet level makes this massive area now become habitable, and it's near the equator. So that's where all the life is going to be.
Oh, dude. And that's what's just so incredible about Earth's history is how these plates move throughout time, and how our continents have been shaped by these, like, it's upwellings of these magma, and the continental plates are porous. They're lighter than the ocean plates, so they're literally floating on top.
Whoa!
And it's every civilization throughout time has been built near waterways. So there is a really good argument for the ability to be able to discover ancient civilizations that have been underwater. It's just what's left. It's like, what are they making their ancient civilizations out of? And back then it was likely biodegradable materials, because that's what they had. I mean,
or stones. And we see some of those, like whether it's the Bimini Road. You know about that?
Yeah.
The Bimini Road down in the Bahamas and Bimini, which is fascinating. Yeah. So like that's the stuff I love. I love them like. And also, like, there's definitely evidence for it. There's evidence for the types of impacts and the type of diamonds that get created, and it's all around the area. Like, definitely something happened. Yeah. And the whole like that crazy, of that crazy asteroid explosion that happened in Russia.
Yeah.
Right.
Tungsten.
Yeah. I don't know. It's something like that, where essentially this asteroid didn't even land. It exploded in the air, and it just wiped out this massive area. But it happened in the middle of the tundra where there was no one around, so no one knew about it. And like they're like, if that would have happened over a populated area, like everybody would have died. like there's no shot. The whole area is just wiped out, and it's like, I think it's like thousands of acres. Like it's a massive area.
Oh my God, yes.
And that probably could have happened,
bro. It's happened. It's happened in the Earth's past. And what's so interesting, I mean, this is a little bit of a tangent, but it is on relatively the same thing. But Jupiter is, I think, one of the main reasons why there is life on Earth is because it is catching all of these asteroids from the asteroid belt.
Yeah, and it's pulling them in,
or meteors and asteroids. It's pulling them in because it has such a larger gravity.
Yeah,
and it is saving the Earth from experiencing these extra solar bodies from entering and hitting us.
Yeah,
there's this great.
Do they get like sucked into Jupiter?
Oh yeah, they get sucked in and destroyed.
Probably
by
so many
space.
all the time.
All the time.
Jupiter's just so big.
It's almost the size of a star. Like it is almost a small star. Yeah,
so it's not as dense.
And then we can get into the moons of Jupiter.
Yeah,
I mean, there's like. It's insane what we can find from the moons of our solar system is so cool.
Do you know about the you like the naming system of Jupiter and Saturn's moons? Do you know about this?
No.
Oh, I wish I could look it up, but there's like Io, Callisto, Rhea, but each one has this own like Greek and Roman origin. One is like the people like Hercules, or one is like the people Zeus like mated with. Right, so it's like cool. They each have their own little pod of like reasoning behind it. It's pretty cool. You can look it up. We can look it up now, but we don't have a Jamie. We don't have a Jamie with us. Yeah. But I agree with you. There's I know something you really care about is the moon, and I was just listening to Rogan. They were talking about how the moon, our moon, is this very unique thing. It's massive. It's massive for what typical moons look like, and they also have some evidence that it's hollow. So they dinged it a while ago. They hit it. They purposely crashed something into it to get a sound resonance from it, and it bellowed like a bell. Meaning there's probably caverns in there. Like they think it's hollow from this experiment.
Interesting. That's super interesting. I haven't heard that, but I have heard like we have a very special moon, and I mean think about how it affects our oceans. It's incredible. It literally causes the tides and the high tides and low tides of our oceans. But if Pluto was in the same place as our moon, it would evaporate, or it would evaporate in the atmosphere, or not evaporate, but it would what's the word? It would be destroyed.
It would disintegrate?
It would disintegrate in our atmosphere. It would get brought into our atmosphere and destroyed.
Wait, why?
Because it's so small and it's an icy body. So Pluto is that small, and the moon is so big that something that we once called a planet would get destroyed by the gravitational pull and barely even land on land. And our moon is absolutely gigantic. And it was formed in the early part of the solar system when another Earth-like body collided with us, and then it created the moon from the debris. And it's an incredible... See, that's where I don't really know... I can't imagine that it's hollow, because it's made of the same planetary material as whatever hit us and whatever is on us. So there are likely some elements on there, but I can't imagine it's hollow.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Do you know? Can you explain to me why there's a dark side of the moon?
There's one side of the moon that's always facing away from us. I know that.
Okay.
I know we've seen it. I mean, we have. Yeah, that's where. I don't know.
Yeah, there are parts that, like, we don't take pictures of the dark side. No, so
I think it's just dark to us, or is it always dark?
I think it's no. There is a dark side of the moon. I think that, right, like, so here's the sun, right? We're rotating it around, and I think it always it spins relative to the sun. So we never see it, right? Because there's never light on it.
So I know about, like...
So I don't think the moon spins. So if you can imagine, if the moon is a body that never...
It's locked with us.
Or no. That wouldn't make sense. I think it spins with the sun. So you can imagine if the north pole of the moon is always facing the sun, then it would always be dark on the south pole.
Interesting.
Therefore, it's always dark, so we can't see it. We can't shine lights on it. There is no. You would have to reflect light onto the back, and that's why that would make the only sense of why it's always dark is because it turns with the sun. Yeah.
I mean, massive organizations around the world use this type of technology. Or excuse me, I'm doing a tangent, but Lagrangian points, or the James Webb Telescope, the massive.
I don't know Lagrangian points though.
I'm about to get into it, but it's points in the Earth's orbit, or in the orbit around Earth, that doesn't move. So we have the James Webb Telescope and a Lagrangian point behind the Earth. So it's always, no matter at what point in the orbit, it's always being blocked from the sun. So it has no interference with
because of the moon.
Because of the Earth. There are points. There are points in bodies. I mean, in galactical bodies where things don't move. Once you get it into that Lagrangian point, I think there's 5 of them. You can just stay there. You don't have to have any type of rocket movement to keep you in place. It's just there are points in the orbit that stay like that. So that just makes me think like the moon must be in some sort of attachment like that. It must be like locked in place to some extent like that.
Yeah.
But it's super interesting how we use those points to study the deep depths of the universe.
Because then it doesn't get any light from the sun, so then it gets all of the light is coming from the outside, and then you can study it in very minute detail.
Yeah. I mean, and then we're being able to see deep into our universe. And what's super incredible about the James Webb Telescope is it's infrared, or it's looking for these supernovas or these red shifts. So how they calculate the age of the universe is they call them standard candles, but when supernovas explode, they create this light emission, and as it gets farther away from us, since there's an expansion of the universe, those light emissions redshift, or they become farther on the red side of the spectrum. So that we know that they're older and older the redder they get. But we're being able to deep dive deep into the universe. And even in the most recent past 4 years, we discovered that the universe is over 38 billion years old. And it was initially 14.8 or something until we saw James Webb, and now we're expanding it.
it probably might be older. We have no clue.
It must be.
It must be.
And we can never leave our local group. From the expansion of the universe, even if we travel at light speed, we can never leave our local group, which is
because everything's moving with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that is less than 1% of 1% of 1% of the observable universe.
Yeah, of the observable universe. Yeah. There's probably unobservable parts.
Yeah, dude. Like, what's on the edge of the universe?
Yeah, I don't know. All right, something I want to highlight is your company, Salted. Why'd you do it? What is it?
Well, it's to reintroduce salt as a vitality supplement. And to show people that salt is not just sodium chloride, that it is dried seawater, and it has the unique biodiversity of whatever sea that has been dried. It has the minerals of all of the crustaceans, of all the creatures, of all of the earthly movements that create what is our ocean, what is our liquid ocean. I mean, it's being fueled by these deep sea volcanic vents. It's being fueled by the rivers, bringing in minerals.
Yeah.
And so it is where life begun. So it has all of the elements needed for life, for the functioning of cells. I mean, a large portion of why I got into this is just looking into what water is and why we need water and what makes it good water.
Yeah.
And a huge portion of what makes good water is its mineral compounds. And because if you drink pure water, you will die.
Yeah.
It's hyponatremia. Hyponatremia. And if you drink pure water, you're literally not allowing the water to be absorbed in your cells because you have to have sodium or other transport molecules to take the water into your cells.
Yeah.
I mean, with the sodium potassium pump and all these different things. But if you just drink pure water, your body's going to have
leach it. You leach all the stuff out of your body into it to match the osmosis, and therefore you're just robbing your body,
your bones, your tissues, your organs of minerals to bring the water to homeostasis. I mean, I have a great saying. That's a great thing to say. But it's, fuck. But it's that you either filter what you put in your body, or you let your body be the filter. And it's true because our body can figure it out. Like it can try and assimilate these weird things that you're putting into it. Like if you eat fucking Doritos or Takis, it's gonna assimilate to your body.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like, you're struggling to try and do it. Whereas something more bioavailable like eggs can be readily absorbed.
Yeah.
And I think that's like kind of my argument towards high quality spring water with unprocessed salts. So what I have is it's highest quality spring water I can find and a mix of unprocessed salts. So it's basically just salt water.
Yeah. But the beautiful part about yours is you're mixing these different types of high quality salt so that, because a lot of people, you should sort of be doing that. You know, there's a lot of the things you can focus on, but I think what I really like about your product coming from like a product development side is you're doing the hard work for people and you're just making this nice, delicious blend of some of the best salts so that you get that right. Like we've established that the mineral content and the diversity of that and the pureness of it is vital for health. And you're doing that so that you can mix these high quality ones so you can just pour it in and it tastes really good and you get this diversified kind of array of minerals.
Yeah, because there's so many different, like if you get different salts from different regions, you're getting so many different minerals, and it's so interesting to do a deep dive into how salt is formed, how you create it. The salt harvesters around the world, they do it all in different ways, because as you go up in latitude or down in latitude, it becomes increasingly difficult to create salt. So you have to like people in China, they get the majority of their salt from deep groundwater that's saline rich, and then they pump it up and boil it. So there's so many different ways to do it. Whereas like Himalayan salt was formed by these massive oceans 250 million years ago.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to do a deep dive into where all these salts come from, why they're good, why they're bad.
Yeah.
And that's what I've really become obsessed with is figuring out what is salt, why is it interesting, why is it good for us, and the conclusion that I've come to is that our blood is salt water. Yeah. And that it's as salty as the oceans, and we need it to survive. It's essential for every single cell in your body to function properly.
Yeah.
And something that's super interesting is that ocean-dwelling creatures have no instances of cancer or chronic diseases, and I think that this is largely associated to their.
Whoa.
Yeah, dude, whales have no cancer. Almost every ocean creature has no
terrestrial
of
creatures
Yeah.
get cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like not like pets.
Pets do.
Pets definitely do.
Oh, okay.
But like wolves don't get cancer.
Some
Like
of them don't, and I'd associate that to the feast and famine cycle. Is that they're allowing their body to do autophagy and kind of cycle through those cells, because all of our cells are replaced every few days or every few weeks, and it's really incredible. And they think that it's largely due to the they have more
solar radiation.
No. They have more access, an abundance of nutrients, to where they're always at homeostasis and they're never in a lack of any of these essential minerals that are essential for enzyme production and for T cells, or these certain cells that what's the word? It's that they have more cells that attack the cancers than there are cancer cells.
Yeah.
I forget the exact word. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Like to mutate, the mutating, their cleanup process is quicker than the
they have more cleanup process, and they think that it's largely associated to these certain enzymes that are being able to be produced in these mineral rich environments. And I
got to
think
go back to the water.
We do. I mean, look at the whales. Whales are cows that went back to the water. I mean, that's something that's so incredible to me.
I know, it's pretty cool. Like they were out of it for millions of years, and they went back into the water.
I mean, if you look at manatees and hippos, that's like the shift. You go from like a cow to a hippo to a manatee to a whale.
Yeah,
and they're right in front of us.
And it's also what's really cool is some of the whales, those that like orcas and dolphins. Orcas are my favorite animal. Yeah. They're just so smart, and they're so incredibly. It's like this like interesting development of just like. We don't really think of fish or sharks of being that smart, and I don't necessarily think they really are. But then there's these mammals that went back to the ocean and just started like taking over, and they're like, we're going to be the alphas here.
Yeah.
And like they might not proliferate as much as other animals in the world, but they don't need to, because that's like not the game they're playing. They're playing the apex game, which is there can't be too many of them, otherwise it throws the whole system out of whack.
And that's something super interesting that happens with predatory creatures, is the refinement of hunting strategies. And I think that's what it is largely attributed our intelligence, is our refinement of what has worked, how we can be successful in the next hunt. And as we got out of the water, we had to see things in the future. We get it like a 10-mile view on the future, so you have to start forward planning and doing these big processes.
Yeah.
And I think that in these mammals, like especially orcas, their intelligence is largely associated to the fact that they're one of the world's best hunters. Yeah. They're having to refine these hunting techniques.
They're highly social too,
highly
right?
social.
And their communication strategy is like insane, and we can't even begin to. We're starting to learn. I know that AI made some pretty big leaps in like understanding, trying to what they're saying, but we still have like no clue.
They have different dialogues.
Yeah.
They have different languages.
They live in little clusters.
When you're taking an orca from Norway and one from Canada and putting them in a thing,
they have like no clue what's going on. Yeah, they have no idea.
Like, I don't know what you are.
Yeah, they probably fight.
Yeah, I would too. I'd be like, this dude doesn't even know my language.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like how humans do it. It's racist orcas just all over. Well, they have different colors too. There's like the brown ones, the brown orcas and the white orcas, and the ones with the spots near them, and the ones that.
And it's all based on your geography.
Yeah,
that's the crazy part.
Yeah,
just like us, the amount of melanin in our skin is directly associated to our position near the equator or farther away from the equator.
Yeah,
I mean, if you have a high solar vortex, a lot of sun, you're gonna have more melanin in your skin.
Yeah, you got to protect yourself from it.
And that's the biggest hoopla about us not seeing each other as like brothers on one planet. And that's like my biggest love for Carl Sagan, is his pale blue dot speech, where he's like, so many people are fighting a distant relative on another part of a small speck of our planet. I mean, it's ridiculous. But I'm super excited about ocean life and super excited about like learning more about the ocean. I mean, the average depth of the ocean, guess what it is?
3,000 feet.
12,000 feet. 12,000 feet. And that's 70% of our planet.
Yeah.
Is 12,000 feet deep. What's going on in the middle from 3,000 to 12 to like.
There's a lot of emptiness, right?
So we think.
Yeah. Because most of the life usually happens around the reefs and where the sunlight reaches the and when sunlight reaches the bottom, and things can live on the bottom that are taking in the nutrients of that, and that's where all the plankton happens near the top. But you're right, there is a lot of stuff going on.
And to bring this back to salt, is the currents of our oceans and how are all salinity driven. So as salt water gets frozen into the polar caps, heavier ions from the salt get released in the freezing process. So because it's heavier, so it creates this very nutrient dense, heavy water that flows down, and then it pushes up it pushes deep sea, very nutrient rich water back up to the higher points, to where these animals in the aphotic zone can actually start to take in this water. So it like salt drives our planet. It drives the oceans, and that's the basis of life.
So talk a little bit about what you're doing with your Cybertruck.
Yes. I am creating a salted Cybertruck.
The salted Cybertruck, which looks, I saw it today. I took a picture of it. We're going to make that like the image of this podcast.
Awesome.
Like, it looks actually insane. I can't imagine someone seeing that on the road.
I get so many crazy looks. But it's a ploy to get attention to salt harvesting. And it's kind of my attempt to learn how to create salt. And I'm creating salt on my truck.
On your truck. I see this now. Okay. Now I get it.
Using it as a platform to harvest salt.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get a layer of salt about yay thick, so the whole thing is salt. And then I'm going to harvest it.
Are you going to eat it?
I don't know. It'll be for show mostly, but I'll eat it. I mean, I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
But it's not. I'm not going to sell that to the customers, of course. But so I have a variety of salted products. So I have salted spring water, salted orange juice, salted watermelon juice, and then I have a mix of the world's best salts.
Yep.
And so this is kind of a play on words on that, like a salted Cybertruck, and it's great. What the hell is that type of situation?
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun though to kind of document the whole experience, because it is layering on. And it looks rusty, but it's really just rock salt. And that's where it's getting people.
Yeah, cool. All right, man. Well, good to have you on. Where can people find Salted if they want to try some of this?
Go to Instagram.
Cool.
Salted, Salt ID.
Yeah.
And it's we're trying to re-identify salt as a vitality supplement, and not as something to be villainized or worried about, but for something to be, it is necessary for life.
Yeah.
So without it, you can't live. No animals can live. And I just want to help people see that it's not something that we should be scared of. It's something that you should definitely have in your life. And your body is more than capable of getting rid of too much salt. It is super stressed in a low salt environment.
Yes.
Everything goes up. It stresses the body.
Running a lot of issues.
Like when you die, when you're bleeding out and you're dying, like what you really die from is the lack of minerals within your system, because you're losing so much minerals from your blood.
Yeah, and that throws the whole balance off.
Blood it's not the right consistency, so it can't properly flow through your blood. Through your veins. So it literally is a lack of salt that kills you.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you, dude.
Cool.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Cheers, man. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Let's go, dude.
Boom, baby.
Let's go.